Hey, book friends. So, June. June is really the only month I get off all year because we just finished our homeschool year. Like yesterday, I took the kids to Barnes and Noble. My annual tradition at the end of the year is to take the kids to Barnes and Noble and be like, you can have any book you want. Everybody gets a book. I get a book. We all get a book to celebrate. And so that's just how we celebrate in my family. But homeschooling is done. And so June is really kind of our break month. We go to the pool a lot. We just hang out. It's going to be fantastic. I don't want to put a ton of pressure on myself to read a ton of books, but I have some really fun things to share with you in today's video because my reset videos are where I just kind of talk about my bookish plans, you guys. It's really where I talk about if I'm thinking about participating in any readathons or challenges and what's my potential TBR, what are some anticipated books coming out in the month of June, as well as any books that I've hauled, which this month it's a little bit more than normal and I probably could have made a whole video just on my haul, but I like to put it in here. I like that there's just a little bit of everything and it's fun to kind of anticipate June. So come along with me as we chat all about my plans for June. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back, all the things. So like I said, reset video for June. What are my bookish plans for June? So many things, honestly. So many fun things. I want to start with my reading challenge. So I'm participating in a reading challenge on a Patreon that I'm a part of, which is Gwen. I will link her down below. You guys really should join her Patreon. It is a lot of fun. And for the entirety of June, she is running a reading challenge, a Survivor team-based reading challenge. Enough said, right? That sounds like so much fun and I'm super, super excited. Obviously, I won't give any details because this is very much her brainchild. She's put so much work into it. And so I'm just telling you to sign up for her Patreon. But I'm looking forward to it because it's a really fun challenge where you don't really know the prompts going into it, right? So I have a tougher time planning a specific TBR, but I do have a potential TBR. But let me first get into my priority books, the books I'm reading for other things. The first being the book I selected for the buddy read in my reading challenge. It's always linked down below. We run it in Discord. It's totally free. Just come participate if you want to. But the prompt for June is book with blue on the cover. So you can read any blue cover book that you want, or you can join us for the buddy read, which I decided that I want to read another Peter Swanson. And it's 8 Perfect Murders. I don't actually even know what this is about. I'm just excited to pick up another Peter Swanson. I really enjoyed, I think it was called 9 Lives, the last one I read from him. And since I feel like summertime's the perfect time for quick thriller books, I thought this was perfect. So I'm reading that for sure. Another one that I am for sure reading is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I'm buddy reading this with a friend of mine who also loves fantasy. We're kind of fantasy buddy readers, and I really enjoy chatting books with her. And this one in particular, I've been wanting to read ever since I picked it up, and I can't believe it's been taking me this long. But because it's historical fantasy, it has to do with the time frame of the Spanish Armada and this girl who is an orphan or a maid of some sort who has a bit of magic. I can't quite remember what it is, but her mistress becomes aware of that and wants to utilize her to kind of improve the family. And then I think a higher up in the government figures out about her and wants to use her. I've heard really good things. And so this is definitely happening along with this one. So on Gwen's Patreon, we've also been doing a very casual read along of The Hunger Games, and I have been participating and I've been really enjoying it. I have read the first 3 already. I didn't realize and I did not remember. So they were very enjoyable the second time around. But this one I definitely haven't read. And it's the newer book called The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And so it's the prequel novel, I believe. And I'm really looking forward to reading it in June and chatting with some ladies on Patreon about it. So those 3 are for sure being read in June. Now, that comes to my potential TBR for this Survivor Team Challenge. So what I am doing, and I learned from the last team challenge, is it's good for me to have books on hand and it's good for me to have requested audiobooks. So I have a handful of books here that I could read if they fit prompts. Maybe they won't at all, but I feel like usually I could find something from a stack and make it work with the prompts from the game. And so I have a number of books that I was able to find on audio, either Everand or through Libby. And I'm going to probably prioritize these because I learned that's a faster way to read books when I have a time limit. And the first one, I don't have the physical book, but I have the audio, and it's Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth. And I'm so excited about this book. I did a whole reading vlog to see if I like Sally Hepworth, and yes, I totally like her writing style. I really enjoyed it, and I've heard nothing but good things about this book. I have a few other books that I have the physical and the audio, and this one I think will be a high priority for me, and it is the short story collection, the Daevabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. And so I just want to get kind of back into that world with some of the characters before I forget it, because we buddy read some of those books, the last 2 books in the trilogy, earlier this year. And so it's pretty fresh still. Another one I want to read is this book. It's been on so many TBRs, and I'm just going to put it back on a TBR. So Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. And it's kind of a mermaid fantasy. I think it's young adult, so it should read fast, but I also have the audiobook for that. And then this one. Okay, I know this book has been so popular over the years. My sister just lent me her copy, and it's The Bromance Book Club by Lisa K. Adams. Now, I don't read a ton of romance, but after reading Abby Jimenez, I'm just like, well, maybe I'll like more romance. I don't think this one's going to be as deep and emotional as Abby's books, but it sounds fun, and it's about, I believe, this man who's trying to fix his marriage by reading romance books. I can't quite remember. That's just a general idea. And I do have the audiobook, so that could be fun. I feel like romances are also really quick reads for me. And so those ones I have audiobooks. And then these ones are just shorter or faster potential reads that I already have on my shelf. So this one I got from the library. So it's 6 Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. It's part of the Crowns of Nyaxia series, which last month I read both of those books. So Serpents and the Wings of Night and Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. Wait for my wrap up. That'll be the next video out on this channel to hear my thoughts on those. But this is a nice quick one that isn't necessarily part of that duology, but it's part of that world. And so I thought it would be kind of fun and quick, obviously. And then I also have this book. It's fairly short, Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton. My sister gave all of these books to me. I honestly can't remember what it has to do with other than like nightmare magic and a missing brother. It's an option. Like I said, I just want a lot of good options along with this one. First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. This is a Reese's Book Club, and it's been really popular, and I feel like people either hit or miss on it, but I think it'll be a fast read. And so I wanted to put this on here as well. And so that's my potential TBR. Honestly, it might not be any of these books because of needing to kind of go off prompts for the team challenge. I also could get voted off the island, if you will, like early on, and then I could just read whatever I want. I just wanted a little bit more strategy. And so this is my potential TBR. Now, let's move on. Let's cover the anticipated reads before I get into my big stack of books over here on my chair, because I'm really excited to share them all with you. So for June, I have 3 books, and I'm excited for all of them. One in particular, and one I really hope Book of the Month has again, because they have always had these. They've always had the Riley Sager books, and the newest one called Middle of the Night is coming out in June, and I'm so excited. It gives me vibes of that Tana French book, the In the Woods, but in this case, there's like 2 boys back in the 80s that were in their tents doing a backyard camping, and then one of the boys goes missing. Like there's a slit in the tent, and he disappeared, and he's gone forever. And then the other friend, who did not get kidnapped, comes back later in life and gets re-immersed into the issue. I'm not sure how Riley Sager's going to handle that, because I feel like that's a somewhat common storyline in some thriller books. So I'm curious how he's going to handle that, but I'm really excited for it nonetheless. Another release I'm really excited for is a Peter Swanson release called Talent for Murder. Now, if I understand what this one's about, I think it's about this woman who's a librarian who's always just kind of been happy with her life. She meets this man kind of suddenly, doesn't really know him very well, but agrees to marry him, and all is good until she starts to feel like maybe he is a serial killer. Like he goes off on all these work trips or something like that, and she's getting this inkling that he is up to no good, which just, I don't know, it sounds really fun. And so that's another one that I've already requested from the library, and hopefully I can get. And the last one is a second book in a series called The Unrelenting Earth. And I'm trying to think of what the first one was called. I read it as part of a buddy read earlier in the year, and it was interesting. It was good in some senses. It's a sci-fi story where the world is uninhabitable for reasons we kind of learned a little bit at the end of the first book. And humanity is kind of up on these flying islands, if you will. And the story surrounds this married couple. And a lot of that first book was kind of following their dysfunctional marriage and things like that, as well as kind of this really interesting world and magic of like people who could control the plant life and allow these islands to fly. It's just really interesting. I feel like it has potential, has a lot of potential, even though I was somewhat confused in the last book, but it is coming out and it has really pretty covers. And so that's the other one that I'm anticipating. So those three. Now, to move on to my book haul. Some of them were given to me, others I got used. First, Hunger Games. I picked up all of them. I got them on Pango. I love Pango. I buy a lot more books than I sell on Pango, but my shop is always linked down below. So I got Hunger Games. I don't really need to explain that. I also picked up this one, and I've already read it, and wait for my wrap up again. It's so good. Though I can't hold it in. It was so good. So this is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. So good. And then I went to Second and Charles, which is a used bookstore, and I'm going to be taking a lot of my books in there. Maybe I'll do a little vlog. I'm really excited because I found some really good ones. So this is a book, Justin Cronin, The Passage. So this is the first book in this whole series, and I think it sounds really interesting. It has very like end of the world, apocalyptic. Then you're also talking government special agents. I've heard it's kind of literary, sci-fi, horror. I'm not sure how to kind of nail this one down, but I found a really floppy paperback. And so I picked that up because I think I'm going to try that here soon. And then I also picked up the first book in, I don't know what this is called, but it's The Serpent and the Dove by Shelby Mahurin. I'm not quite sure how to say that, but there's a whole series of these. It's a YA fantasy book. And I feel like I like the premise. I think it had something to do with a witch hunter forced into marriage. And so I think it is romantasy, but YA, which I'm learning that I think I'm more on the YA end of this new romantasy trend. And so I wanted to pick this up because it sounds really good to me. I honestly like marriage books over other kinds of books. Okay. Another one I picked up. So this, like I said, we went to Barnes & Noble to pick up a book, and I'm like, I get a book too. And so this one I think sounds really good. So this is The Stars Undying by Emery Robin. Now this is a sci-fi book, but it kind of has Roman flares like Cleopatra and things like that. So it's kind of like historical sci-fi. I don't know, I read it and it just sounded really interesting about like this princess who her twin claims the crown of their planet, but then there's something that she needs to like have an alliance to save everybody. And it says, for her planet's sake and her own, she must become a queen as history has never seen before, even if it breaks an empire. The next one, my most anticipated book of the year probably. I'm a huge Stuart Turton fan. I loved 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Honestly, it's the only book review I've ever made on BookTube is that book because I just found it so interesting and I should just reread it because it was so much fun. But I'm stoked for his new one. So this is The Last Murder at the End of the World. It's got a really cool cover, and this was the Barnes & Noble exclusive. I just ordered it. I don't pre-order books. I pre-ordered this book, and I'm so jazzed to read it. But I won't be able to read it right away because it's part of my reading challenge that we have scheduled for July. I should have scheduled it for June, but I put it in July. I'm still super stoked because it has something to do with like this island that is blocked off from the rest of the world by this fog. But then one of the scientists who is involved in like making this island and protecting it was found dead, and it starts this clock to like have to figure out what happened. And if they don't figure it out, like the fog comes in or something like that. I don't really know. Another one I picked up was this book, The River of Silver, which I've already talked about. So that's the short story collection. Then I have some from my sister. My sister gave me Every Last Fear by Alex Finley. So this came out a number of years ago, but I think it sounds really interesting. It has some like FBI and State Department kind of things going along too. So I like when books include that trope, the kind of the FBI trope. So we'll see what that's even about. I don't like to look too closely for my thriller books. And then this one, she gave me her extra copy of a beautiful book. Look at these sprayed edges. And so this is Voyage of the Damned by Frances White. It says, there will be magic, there will be murder. We can get murdered tomorrow. Tonight we party. I have no idea what this is about, honestly, but she wants to read it together. And so I'm definitely going to read it with her. It just looks really beautiful. 12 magical blessings, 12 days at sea, one chance to stop a killer and save the world. And then she did give me 2 romance books, which She's not sure if I'll like or not. She likes romance a lot more than I do, but she loved these books. So it's the Love Light Farms by B.K. Borison, and the second one, which is In the Weeds. So I think this has to do with like winter, spring, and then summer and fall might be coming out. And I I don't know. I like to have some romances on my shelf just because one, they're a little quicker of reads, but two, they could be really good. Sometimes I'm in the mood for it. It's definitely not a genre that I know anything about. So, you guys, that's June. I am super, super stoked. I'm surrounded by books and I'm so excited about my plans, about my new books, about summer in general. So I hope you are as well. And let me know down below what your plans are for June. Let me know if you have big plans, like vacation plans, and you're going to take some books. Let me know all about that. And if you've made it this far in the video and want to leave me an emoji, maybe leave me an island for the last murder at the end of the world, as well as the survivor challenge. Leave me an island. That'll be really fun. But otherwise, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to. And you guys, I will see you in the next book video. All right, take care. Bye.